You're mid-sentence, explaining your perspective to your partner, when you notice their eyes glazing over. They're nodding, but you can tell they've checked out. Sound familiar? We've been taught that good communication means talking more, explaining better, being clearer. What if that's backwards? The most profound conversations you've ever had probably weren't conversations at all. They were silences punctuated by truth. Think about the last time someone really heard you. Not the words you said, but what you meant. Chances are, they weren't busy formulating their response while you spoke. They weren't waiting for their turn to talk. They were present in that rare, uncomfortable space we call silence. Our culture treats silence like a disease. We fill every pause with noise, every gap with chatter. We mistake volume for value and assume that more words equal better understanding. This belief is killing our relationships. Carl Jung wrote about the power of holding space for another person's psyche to unfold. He understood that real listening requires us to temporarily abandon our own agenda. When we rush to fill silence, we're often rushing to escape discomfort. That discomfort might be exactly what needs to be felt. You know this feeling. You're sharing something important, and the other person immediately jumps in with advice, their own story, or worse, reassurance that everything will be fine. They mean well, but they've just told you that your experience is too much for them to simply witness. Silence does something radical. It says your thoughts matter enough to be heard completely. It says your emotions deserve space to exist without being fixed or explained away. Most people have never experienced this level of being seen. The ancient Stoics understood that wisdom often comes through listening rather than speaking. Epictetus taught that we have 2 ears and 1 mouth for a reason. But there's something deeper here than just being a good listener. Silence creates psychological safety. When you stop rushing to respond, something shifts. The other person feels less pressure to perform or defend. They can access parts of their truth that only emerge when they feel truly safe. This isn't just about being nice. This is about creating conditions where real intimacy becomes possible. Most arguments aren't really about the topic being discussed. They're about feeling unseen, unheard, or misunderstood. When we practice strategic silence, we're addressing the underlying need for recognition that drives most relationship conflicts. Dale Carnegie wrote extensively about the magnetic power of being genuinely interested in others. But interest without space is just interrogation. Silence transforms interest into invitation. You might worry that staying quiet means being passive or disconnected. This isn't about becoming a silent statue. This is about choosing your words more carefully and creating space for what wants to emerge. Sometimes the most loving thing you can do is resist the urge to make everything better with your words. The paradox runs deeper than relationships. Our internal dialogue follows the same pattern. We fill our own mental space with constant commentary, analysis, and judgment. We're terrible listeners even to ourselves. When you learn to sit with silence externally, you develop tolerance for it internally. You stop being afraid of your own thoughts. You stop needing to immediately resolve every uncomfortable feeling with mental chatter. This silence isn't empty. It's full of attention, presence, and genuine curiosity about what wants to be expressed. It takes courage to resist the social pressure to always have something to say. Viktor Frankl observed that between stimulus and response lies our freedom to choose. In conversation, that space between what someone says and how we respond is where real communication happens. Most of us skip right over this space. Professional therapists are trained in the art of therapeutic silence. They understand that people often answer their own questions when given enough space. They know that insight emerges from within, not from external advice. You can practice this starting today. In your next meaningful conversation, try waiting 3 seconds before responding. Notice your discomfort with the pause. Notice how the other person sometimes fills that space with deeper truth than what they initially shared. Good communication starts with the confidence to let silence exist without rushing to fill it. It starts with trusting that connection doesn't require constant words. It starts with believing that your presence matters more than your commentary. The people in your life are already telling you everything they need you to know. The question is whether you're creating enough space to actually hear it.